Welcome. You've reached Tina at your Backup Plan podcast. I'm so anxious and excited to be here today for this unbelievable show about talking about Jimi Hendrix's untold story, untold chapter in his life of revealing conversations. And we only have half of our party here today, so we're going to do what we can for you guys because I know that it's of interest and, of course, of a real nature, a real life story. So stay tuned and we'll bring on Sir Johan, who is going to give us some insight. Be right back.
In the blink of an eye, life can change dramatically. On our podcast, Talking Taboo with Tina, we delve into these life-altering events with celebrities, authors, and everyday people just like you. You'll also discover your Backup Plan app, a life-organizing tool designed to prepare you for any unexpected circumstance. It's your safety net, taking the sting out of tragedy. Imagine a Plan B that ensures your finances are safe, even in the worst-case scenario. But it doesn't end there. Join our vibrant Facebook group for free webinars on backup planning and secure your future today.
We're back. Awesome. Let's get right into the party here today. We were waiting for Leon Hendrix and only half of our party showed up. The best part, right, Sir Johan, is the CEO of the Jimi Hendrix Family Foundation out of Vancouver, BC. Welcome.
The best part, I think Leon would be I'm boring. Leon's interesting.
Well, it's okay because we only got half of us here, so.
Okay.
You know.
What we can do. I understand that Leon's stuck in a recording studio somewhere, so, yeah.
That's the life of a musician.
It sounds like it, yes.
Yeah.
So how are you?
We'll do what we can, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to start with sort of Leon's story of Jimi Hendrix's brother and...
Well, I guess we can start with where it started with the family being a Vancouver family to begin with. Leon Hendrix was born in the Vancouver General Hospital along with all his brothers and sisters, and that's the Canadian connection there for a couple of generations before Jimmy and Leon were born. And then Al ended up going to Seattle, hooked up with Lucy, and then they ended up having 5 children in total. Of course, Leon and Jimmy being one of them. In this case, 2 of them, I should say. And then, but they spent the majority of their time in Vancouver from kids. Because when I first met Leon, it was kind of like he wanted to go and revisit everything in Vancouver to see what was still there from the days when he was in Vancouver. So.
Oh, wow. That must have changed a lot.
Yeah, well, it's kind of an interesting journey because you don't know it unless you get it directly from the horse's mouth in this case. And so it's kind of interesting to go to all these places that him and Jimmy used to go to back in the day because, again, like I say to people, Jimmy's so Canadian, he could have played Woodstock, Ontario, and it could have been Canada he played.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable to think that he passed away in 1970. We were talking about this backstage.
Yeah.
And in 4 years of a career, what an influence he had, like for years and years.
And in one generation, it's not as if it's from a family of notable musicians or incredibly talented people. So there's always that one family member, I guess, that can come along that's an Elon Musk or Bill Gates or, in this case, a Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And Leon is also a musician at heart, of course. And
yeah.
So it's in the blood somewhere.
Well, yeah, I remember the first time I met Leon, and it's kind of like he was playing guitar, and because I've watched a lot of Jimmy video in the past because of being a guitar player and just kind of figuring out what made this person tick. It was kind of interesting to watch his hands, and his fingers are a lot like Jimmy's, so it was kind of a interesting visualization to sort of look at these fingers. I'm going, wow, this kind of looks like Jimmy's hand, but Leon learned how to play guitar a little late in his life. He didn't, he way back then he could have had a master class with a master, but he wasn't interested at the time.
Yeah.
Even though Jimmy gave him a couple of guitars, but yeah, it wasn't until later on he picked it up.
Like later on in his 20s or later on in...
40s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, who sits down and wants to be a guitar player at 40 years old? Usually it's like you say, in your 20s or teens, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but you know what? If you got a little bit of that blood in your bloodstream and a little bit of ambition, you can do what he's done, and he's done fairly well with basically being a late bloomer, right? So,
Oh, it's unreal, really, to think.
yeah, I don't think I'd want to pick up a guitar in my 40s.
No, it has to be in your blood. Absolutely.
Well, actually, I'll re-say that. I wouldn't mind picking it up in my 40s if it was just me playing around my house and everything, but to be thrown in front of an audience, that's the next step, right? So,
Yeah. And where's he playing in the next month or two?
okay, so there's a big pile of gigs booked right across Europe because there's a lot of places that still love Jimmy over there, and of course Leon's got his own music, so he combines the two music together. But places like Croatia and I believe he's going to the Netherlands. There's something being lined up in England. So yeah. So and what happens is usually when he goes there, all of a sudden all these other people want to book him because he happens to be there, right? And they're able to talk to him or get access to him. So that opens up other business opportunities for him, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Uh,
he has a big family himself, I guess.
Sorry,
He has a big family himself.
maybe even if internationally, but I've never asked him about that.
Oh, well, I read he has 6 kids, but
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, yes.
so that's a pretty big family he has. But and to be as busy in that music world.
Yeah, and they're all talented in their own individual areas. But the one that I really admire a lot is Tina Hendrix, that has the music academy in Seattle that takes at-risk youth to keep them away from guns, drugs, and gangs by getting them involved in the music industry or playing an instrument or reschooling and basically keeping a clean nose in life and keep them away from guns, drugs, and gangs. So she's doing
Wow,
good. I'm quite proud of her.
that's amazing.
Really,
To
really a strong personality, but she does great work.
and what does she play? Anything in particular?
I think she plays violin and some guitar, but mostly a recording studio type of a person. So
Oh,
production,
cool.
production
Oh,
and engineering, right?
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and we tried to get Leon here. If you just came on our show, he's trapped in a music room in a session of some sort.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best with talking about where in the 1970s what happened with the family then with Jimmy dying.
Well, like would be like anybody else's family, shock and upheaval and everything like this. Because when Jimmy passed away, Leon was actually in some kind of a correctional facility at that particular time for, I don't know, driving without a license again or whatever. But that's how he heard about it. He was pulled down to the offices and the warden told him that it happened. So of course, incredible sinking feeling, right?
Oh yeah.
Because don't forget, Leon's gone on some of the tours with him and watch him play. And even when he played here back in Vancouver, I mean, he played the Pacific Coliseum. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Right. So Terry David Mulligan did that interview back in the day. And he's actually an old friend of our family because I have 3 older half brothers that went to school with him. But yeah, and of course Jimmy was asking about the annex in Vancouver where he went to school, and yeah, so it's kind of neat to see that.
Absolutely, especially from Vancouver.
Well, yeah, exactly. So he had all the uncles and aunts and cousins and Leon at that show in Vancouver. So if you go to the Pacific Coliseum, you might still hear some Jimmy in the hallway somewheres,
Yeah.
reverberizing.
Yeah. Staying around.
Exactly. So yeah. So and that, from what I understand, way back then, that was a sold out show. So
Wow. And to think his career was able to move the way it was just from coming from Vancouver. It wasn't like you said, he wasn't from New York or from London, England or anything.
yeah, like nothing like from Vienna or anything like that, where you start learning music at 3 or 4 years old and you become something at the end of the day, right? So, but pretty humble, beginnings from Vancouver to Seattle, then getting on the Chitlin circuit because Jimmy got into trouble back in the day with the law, and he had a choice of going to jail or joining the military, and he joined the military, and that's when he came across Billy Cox when he was in the military, and that then the two of them hooked up and then ended up playing all these places in southern states on the Chitlin circuit, and of course learning every little guitar hook and trick and everything that you can well imagine on that, on that excursion of the musical exploration of what became Jimmy.
That's amazing, because I can't imagine the passion that you would have, where it could probably take you away from the other crap in life, probably. Just,
Well, yeah, it was a form of escapism for him because of a bit of an abusive upbringing and stuff like this. But the thing is, don't forget, Jimmy just didn't pick up a guitar one day and was a genius. He had a great idea, but he also worked at it 99.9% of the time. He wore it 24 hours a day.
yeah.
So, he put his 10, 15,000, 20,000 hours into it before, he was able to really get ahead before he ended up in England, and thank heavens being discovered at the Cafe Wa, and making that journey over to England and basically blending in with the music people that were there, because Jimmy had an advantage. All these people that were in England listening to like BB King or Buddy Guy, I mean, Jimmy played with all these guys.
Yeah.
And I think they were a little surprised when he found out this young kid played with all these people and was on that circuit, met all these people and played with these people, and has a huge advantage, right? I mean, he was getting master classes, not realizing he was getting master classes.
Yeah, because you'd be soaking it in like a kid who has that passion to do it too.
Exactly. But just getting the opportunity to launch his career by going to England and doing that with people that were around him. I mean, a lot of it has to do with who you know. I mean, in that case, it is with Linda Eastman at the time that kind of discovered him, which would be Paul McCartney's wife. So.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I think if you got Paul McCartney on your side and you're a bit talented, it might help you a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, he did get him his gig at Monterey Pop Festival. I don't know if you know that.
No.
Yeah, and that's when Jimmy made a big splash when he came back to North America. It was the Monterey Pop Festival. So, but that was because of Paul McCartney.
Oh, okay. I saw a lot in Maui. He had a.
Oh yeah, that was after Woodstock, Maui.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know how many people turned up at that gig. I don't know. I don't know if it was a really large gig or not. Right?
And it seems like yesterday when we're talking about it, but gracious, it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, 1970 to now, it's kind of like, I think we're starting to date ourselves. Not like as if we're thinking about 3 years ago, are we?
Yeah, it seems like that. But the way he's in, like, everybody knows the name. Like, how crazy is that?
Oh, Japan loves him. A lot of Asian cities, Asian countries love Jimi Hendrix, right? So you go to the Philippines, they love him there. Just like they do Bob Marley. He's a internationally known person, right? Bob Marley and Michael Jackson, and of course Jimi Hendrix, and again from Vancouver of all places.
Yeah, it's crazy. And what do you think happened after? Where did the mess start once Leon came out of jail? Then to try and put the pieces together.
Okay, mess in what aspect? Because this family's had messes in 4 or 5 different areas, but.
Well, the big mess of his passing, I guess, would be a mess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it will leave a huge void in the family, right? To see that voice gone, right? So, I mean, I'm quite sure the psychological fallout, from what I understand from Leon, was pretty grim for a very long time. Until Al Hendrix came along with Paul Allen, that kind of basically put the nucleus of what stuff pertaining to the rights and likeness and the music catalog and getting control of that and making some kind of a family legacy for the family, right? So, because you got to realize, Al Hendrix, I mean, he's a gardener and he's a merchant seaman. So, I mean, you're not dealing with a person here that has business degrees.
Right.
Right. So he had, a couple of lawyers in around him that were helping the situation. And of course, when Paul Allen came on board with things, because Paul's originally a guitar player. You know that?
No.
Yeah, he's a guitar player, but a computer geek. And of course, meeting Bill Gates again, became the nucleus for Microsoft. But he's a guitar player, and he loved Jimi Hendrix before Bill Gates came along.
Oh, really?
So that's what that connection is, from what I understand. I've talked to Paul several times, and yeah, I miss him. He was a very interesting guy, Paul.
Do you think he if there had been some knowledge to put together his estate, which would have been, linking his licensing and the use and the control of his business, do you think that it could have gone smoother?
I talked to Paul about that, and he wishes that he would have set it up a little bit differently without certain people that are non-family relatives that were brought into the family poke their fingers in and got control of things. He likes how I do the Jimi Hendrix Family Foundation in Vancouver, because if there's any Hendrix rogue family members that go off on a tangent, they're not going to affect the main entity. And unfortunately, with the way that it was set up, the way that Paul set it up, which he told me he regretted setting it up that way, but once the ball's rolling, what can you do? You can't go back and reinvent yourself and shut everything down, especially with who the family members are here.
Yeah.
He wishes he would have set it up a little bit more like the way I've done it in Vancouver, and then all of the Hendrix family members would be, making money from the family kitty pot, and they'd be dividing up to make sure that you can go through life with a little bit of dignity and class and push on the legacy of who your family is.
So it sounds like if he had have put together a trust, sort of like what you have, a foundation, a trust where people can be part of it, you'd name.
Yeah, exactly.
People.
And make sure that people aren't pillaging that trust, because there are so many people that have taken advantage of Jimmy and family members along the way here, never mind the non-family member that kind of took it up to a whole new level, right? So, a lot of that stuff at that level could have been curtailed a lot earlier, and that person wouldn't be doing what they're doing now. And, it's a shame. It'd be like you having a relative that's making millions of years, and it was your father, and you're not benefiting anything from it. A stranger's benefiting from it.
That makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite sure Jimmy would have had a different slant on it if he was alive.
Yes, I'm sure.
Right.
Do they continue ever since 1970 to be this wheel of a problem?
Well, it didn't highlight until Al Hendrix passed away, and then everything went south pretty quickly after that, from what I understand.
Which is the father, if anybody wants to know.
Yeah, Jimmy's father and Leon's father. So, but yeah, which is kind of sad. But up to that period of time, they were sort of enjoying the fruits of the labor and things that they were doing. And I understand certain promises was made by an individual, and they've never upheld those promises, which means all the lawsuits ever since then and the harassment of Leon by this individual in Seattle. And it's pretty sad.
Yeah, that is sad. Because
sorry, yes?
It just changes your whole perspective as well as your life around.
Yeah, well, there's one thing that person in Seattle will never ever be, is there will never ever be a blood Hendrix. So that's what I care about, and that's what really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think? Has it gotten easier by you creating this family foundation, as well as knowing where this person's coming from to perhaps fix things now?
The person in Seattle fix things? That person's not fixing anything except for themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know that Jimmy's own mother isn't even buried at his gravesite area there?
Really?
Yeah, it's got a big pile of headstones for people that aren't even related to the family directly. Kind of sad.
How does that work? Why would they do that?
I guess when you can manipulate things to your advantage, and you come from nothing, and yeah, it's pretty sad to see. Leon had to actually pay for his own money that he took out of his own pocket, found his mother's grave, and had her moved closer to Jimmy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because you guys, the whole group, should have their own lot kind of thing.
Well, yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of Hendrix members buried in Vancouver. Who Leon is named after, his uncle, he's buried here in Vancouver. So here's a very interesting story if you want an inside scoop here. So one of my board members is a guy named Sir James Barlow. Sir James Barlow is the great-great-grandson of Charles Darwin. He's at an event in Vancouver, and a person comes up to him and says, "Listen, I'm writing a thesis pertaining to the old graveyards in Vancouver, and in one of the graveyards there, they have what a section there. Technically, at that time, which is kind of sad, called the colored section. So if you had a suntan, you ended up here. Okay, so when he was going through there and going through books, he came across all this Hendrix name all the time. So he was out trying to find the area where they were, and there's like no proper headstones or any of this kind of stuff, just some little markers in the ground. And after about a week, the groundskeeper says, "What is it you're looking for?" He explained to him what he was looking. He says, "Well, if you would have come and seen me the first day, it's over this way." So what happened is Sir James gets in touch with me and say, "Hey, listen, I think I found the family's plot in Vancouver." And I'm going, "Well, Leon doesn't even know. Leon thinks they're buried in the States." And I don't know why some of the relatives up in Vancouver here don't know exactly where somebody's buried, but I think a lot of them moved out of Vancouver. So anyways, have you ever seen Ancestors in the Attic?
No.
Okay, so the show's premised on this. You get in touch with these people and they try to find your relatives. Somehow the dead relatives have found Leon, because what happened is I phoned Leon. I go, "Listen," and I'm a little bit emotional because I'm the only one that knows about this, right? Because again, nobody knows in the family where they were buried. So again, they thought they were buried somewhere in the States, and they're not. They're all buried here in Vancouver. So what happened is I told Leon, we basically ended up having tears, and so he wants to make sure there's going to be some proper gravestones there and everything like that for those family members. And a lot of weird things with coincidences. There's a lot of 27s and 57s in this family. I was born September the 27th, 1957, but these grave areas like 27, 57, it's kind of weird number situation here. And Jimmy unfortunately passed away at 27. So, but so this is the reverse of Ancestors in the Attic, where, I mean, of all people, the great-great-grandson of Charles Darwin, find your relatives through somebody else, and then Leon now knows where they're at and where they're buried in Vancouver. So that was a nice thing to bring to the family.
Yeah, that sure is. You know, because that must be disheartening, not knowing.
Well, yeah, exactly. And other people that have popped up, because when Leon was in Vancouver, I was dealing with a company called Orchid Cellmark, and there's a thing called mitochondrial DNA, and it comes from the mother's side. It doesn't matter who the father's side of things are. So I've had people get in touch with me that have submitted their DNA, and these are direct kids of Jimmy's.
Oh, wow.
Of which Jasmine was living with me for, I don't know, about a year and a half or whatever like that. She went back to the States, and but I mean, we're in the midst of tracking down 4 more.
Holy.
Yeah.
So there's 4 and then maybe another 4?
Yeah, so we're figuring 7 to 8 people. And after talking to people like Billy Cox, Jerry Velez, I'm expecting there might be some more coming out of the woodwork, as one would say here, because Jimmy wasn't just a prolific guitar player. He was prolific in some other areas too.
It sounds like it. Living life to the fullest.
Yeah, exactly. But DNA does not lie. So Jimmy's got daughters, and he's got sons.
Wow, that's crazy.
So yeah.
Can you put together a family plot then with that foundation? Like, is the family able to do that?
I mean, to put new gravestones up here in Vancouver and everything like that?
Like put it together so everybody's together?
Well, there's a little thing, because you got to realize there's native blood within the family here, and it's a bit of a taboo to unbury people and start moving them from point A to point B, right? So Leon actually felt bad about moving his mother, but the right thing is to have her closer to Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
Preferably in his own graveside area instead of the peripheral outside view of it, right? Which is a little ridiculous, but the ones in Vancouver here, they just need to be like plotted properly, as far as a nice gravestone's concerned, instead of just a little marker in the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. The family deserves that.
Oh, yeah, definitely, exactly. I mean, like I said, it's a Canadian family. Jimmy's Canadian as far as I'm concerned. He happened to be born in Seattle.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is now, okay, he doesn't just become more Canadian, then he's going to a Canadian Commonwealth main country, which is England. So he's connected with the Commonwealth countries again, which Canada's part of, right? So,
Right.
Yeah, so all from Vancouver.
That's crazy. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we were talking about backstage about going over there and doing some shows and coming back?
Oh yeah, well, I know that Leon wants to play more places in Europe because of the exception of, I mean, they treat him like rock royalty over there, right? So, no matter where he goes, every musician in town gravitates towards him, whether they be be famous musicians or just regular musicians that have 9 million questions to ask about guitar playing or Jimmy and everything like this, right? So
Yeah.
but,
I wonder if any of his kids are going to have the talent.
I don't know. The ones that I know of don't have any musical talent in them, right? So, but then again, they've only just really been discovered in the last 5 years to be confirmed being related to Jimmy and being sons and daughters, right? So,
Yeah, to think that that's how long it's taken. Can you? It's just unreal.
yeah, well, there's a lot of interesting things on why certain family members, meaning on the outside of the Hendrix family, would not tell the child that this is your dad or not your dad. Or, I mean, there's this really nice kid that's in England, and I do a Skype call with him, and I'm looking at a white Jimi Hendrix, same nose, same bone features, the kinky hair and everything like this. And it was always hidden from him who he was until
Oh,
he went to a funeral of a family member, and he overheard a conversation saying, "Thank heavens, I can't mention his name, but thank heavens so and so doesn't know that he's his great grandfather or his grandfather's Jimi Hendrix."
that's
The family never ever shared that and buried it for some reason. The father never talked about it, being the son of Jimmy,
wow.
right? So I mean, everybody's got these little, I don't know, barriers for some reason on on who and what they are, right? So,
And where do you think the family originated from?
well, I believe the Hendrix name's name from out of the Netherlands. So I understand that if it's correct on what I hear, on the research that we've done, is there's primarily a slave-owned family way back in the day, and they adopted the last name Hendrix because that's the
And
only way that they would have gotten a name, because not too many Hendrixes running around the savannah desert of Africa that I know of.
yeah,
Especially way back then, right? So they adopted a lot of the different names and everything like that for either through slavery, unfortunately, or some kind of a connection in that area.
so it would have originated in the States, and then they moved to Vancouver, I guess.
Well, if it's coming in through the Netherlands, I don't know, because obviously there is different situations with different kinds of slavery over there. Besides, I mean, besides black slavery, I mean, there's white slavery too. I mean, there's a lot of people that were enslaved that were white, right? So, but they still don't know the whole full story of what it is. So I've tried to sort of put it together with what I've been able to do. So, yeah, end up in Vancouver of all places at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then to start here, in Vancouver, and actually have that huge followers from around the world.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been some good bands that come out of Vancouver, but nothing close to Jimi Hendrix. I mean, he's the main crux of any geniuses coming out of Vancouver as far as music is concerned. I won't mention the other people out of Vancouver, but this one's a certified genius worldwide.
Yeah, he is, and it doesn't matter who you say. If it's his name, everybody knows it. It's just common.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if you want to know more about Jimmy when he was younger and the musical aspect of things, I could bring Billy Cox. We should do a podcast with Billy Cox.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's his childhood friend from when he was like 18, 19 years until like still playing today.
Yeah, and we'll get Leon sometime. We'll catch him and nab him and put him in the booth.
It would be nice to have Leon and Billy Cox and myself and yourself, and because you get everything from the childhood from Leon, and then past that you want to talk to Billy because Leon's kind of out of the situation,
Yeah.
right? So,
And Leon was in jail in Canada, like in Vancouver? Or
well, he did graduate from Ocala.
oh, did he?
Yeah, for different little things he was in there for, from what I understand. So, yeah. So
That's too bad.
sounds pretty Canadian to me if you're in Ocala. Which back in the day, if people don't know, is a correctional institute that was in Burnaby, basically, right?
Yeah.
On Royal Oak and Burnaby.
Yeah.
No longer there, right?
Well,
Yeah. I think Leon was doing a tour of correctional centers back in the day.
oh,
So this is how he's been able to get in the music industry. It's kind of the same thing. It's just a different crowd, right?
I guess. Or maybe partly the same crowd.
Exactly. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome. I think our listeners would love that. And I think we don't talk enough about famous people. We don't, whether they're still alive or passed away.
Yeah. Well, I think there are people that talk about him, but I know, I mean, it's been since 1970 since Jimmy's passed away. I mean, there's, it's a few generations as far as age groups and everything like that's come and gone, right? So,
Well, how long would you say that his estate has been in a sort of a mess of some sort, like a
as far as
legal,
family
legal,
dynamics are concerned,
yeah. Has it been ongoing since the beginning?
unfortunately, since Al passed away. So, I mean, this person even went to the point of Leon not even using his full name. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And to think that after so the dad got the estate, I'm assuming, from Jimmy.
Well, no, they had to wrangle it, and this is where Paul Allen came in because when you got a guy backing you up that's a billionaire and you're starting to go after an estate, I'm going to say that he can probably make things happen fast and quick for you. And that's what he did for Al and for the family.
Oh, good.
He just wishes he had it set up differently where certain individuals, whether it's a direct Hendrix family member or not, can't overthrow the situation and manipulate it for their own personal gain. It would need to be set up as kind of what I've done with the Family Foundation in Vancouver here.
Yeah.
Where once money start coming in and everything like this with what we're doing, that all the family members benefit by it.
Yes, that only makes sense.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then you name the people who are going to benefit from it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's set up in a way that not one single individual can overthrow it and take it over and not have the other family members participate. And that's where, unfortunately, with the intelligence level that Paul has and actually the honest ability and the innocence of setting it up the way that he did made probably sense at the time, but you didn't know somebody was going to come out from the other left side of the field and do what they did, right? So
right. But I talk about that on our show all the time. It just needs to be one in the mess.
That's all it takes, which is sad. So, but I understand things are in the works behind the scenes that might be straightening things out fairly quick here. So
good. When did Al die then, the father?
Oh God. I'm really horrible with these particular dates. The reason why is when I started putting the Jimi Hendrix Family Foundation, what Jimmy did was in the past, as far as I'm concerned from there, I was looking towards the future to do what needs to be done pertaining to trying to help out. And my business model is kind of like when I was impressed with Tina Hendrix is to set up an entity pertaining to helping at-risk youth to keep them away from guns, drugs, and gangs. And as you know, in our society, we really need that, right? So,
Yeah.
But at the same time, employ family members that would like to be working for the entity at the same time, right? So,
yeah, that's true. And kind of do a dual where you're doing something good to help others, but you're benefiting from being a part of it. I guess.
Well, exactly. My mentality was to think about tomorrow. What happened in the past happened in the past, right? So,
yeah.
So.
So I think artists, whether it's art or music, they should definitely set up a foundation or a trust, which we call it in estate planning, and put the people that they want to benefit from this moving forward.
Yeah. But, you know, in Canada, there's different kinds of trust. There's only so many things you can sort of do in certain areas, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to see a proper estate planner to do that, and somebody that's wrapped up a bit. I mean, I know how it's done, but there's like 5 or 6 different ways to go, right? So,
Yes, there is. And people just get so busy with their busy musician life
yeah.
that they just don't take time because it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And like, I'll give an example of the different kinds of trusts. There's like 501c3s in the States, which is charitable type trusts, but they also have family type trusts. And then, like in my particular case, I live under a family trust, but that family trust is close to 800 years old. So, so you're basically still running something under those rules and regulations back then, which is automatically grandfathered. Mine's from Europe, so which supersedes any of the stuff that's over here, right? So,
Yeah.
but, you know, as you know, each individual country has their own little form of it. But I know that in the States, there's a lot of really good different trusts you can set up properly to have family members working and
Yes.
charity around it, right? So,
Yes. No, that only sounds beneficial for tax purposes as well as keeping everything on the good side of things and not having somebody come in and try to change it or manipulate it.
well, yeah. Plus, the thing is, besides the taxing the business aspect, it's nice to have a family entity that's together. It keeps family members together instead of everybody kind of going in their own different directions and trying to wing it and not have the cohesiveness of the family unit, right? So,
Yeah, in a direction.
well, yeah, especially if it happens to be a family where one person's raised millions and millions of dollars, and it's nice to have the family benefit by that aspect of it into the future, long after the first 2 or 3 generations are gone, and setting it up properly at the beginning makes the difference.
Okay, Al died in 2002.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know it was in the 2000s, but I didn't realize, was it 2002 already, eh? God.
So 22 years ago,
Yeah.
almost.
And his grandmother, you know, his grandmother lived on the native reserve in North Vancouver.
No.
Yeah, so if you're looking in Vancouver, if you're bottom of Lonsdale and you look to the right, there is a native band there, and she lived in that area there where Leon would come and visit. But they used to go to an old church there that's still there. I think it's a Catholic-based church, and that's where Jimmy and Leon used to go to. And there's little pieces of, oh, here's an interesting thing I could mention here. There's a little piece, you know how they have the stained glass windows?
Yeah.
When the sun comes down and hits on a certain angle of that, you can see something on the floor, and it would be purple. And that's kind of where the idea of purple haze came out of in Jimmy's creative mind. Because if you look at the words of purple haze, actually has nothing to do with drugs. It's just that Timothy Leary brought out a drug called purple haze at the time with that drug culture, right? And but it's a native spiritual song. I mean, when you're in a church, when you go, "Excuse me, while I kiss the sky," who are you kissing to in the sky?
Yeah.
God, right? So that's where that song originated from. But so
That's
yes,
cool.
so they went, you know, back and forth from that reserve to Vancouver, where different places they live, and of course, Vi's Chicken Shack, where his grandmother also worked back in the day, and the Georgia Viaduct area, which is Hogan's Alley area, which is all gone now. So I mean, and the one relative there actually was very prolific in setting up a church for people to go to. And by the way, actually, I'll tell you what, I'm Canadian, but my grandmother's not on a stamp in Canada like Jimmy's grandmother is. She's on a Canadian stamp.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on a Canadian stamp here in Canada.
And what did she get on the stamp for?
Pertaining to civil rights, the pioneering areas that she did pertaining to church and giving back to her community.
Oh, wasn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And she died before Al?
Oh, good question. Again, something from
Should
the
I
past.
look it up?
Yeah. You look it up. You got your Google fingers are happening.
Lucille Jeter?
That's the mother. That's Jimmy's mother. So this would be Lenore Rose Hendrix.
Leon Rose Hendrix. So her parents,
Yeah.
Lucille Hendrix.
Well, it would be Al's side of the family,
Oh, okay.
right? So, because you got the Seattle component with Lucy, right?
Yeah.
And actually, that's one of the guitars I got, Jimmy's guitar. That was the one that was upstate New York, and it's actually painted salmon color, they call it, or whatever, like this kind of a pink salmon. But it was named after his grandmother, Rose, in Vancouver.
Okay.
I've got the guitar. I'm going to be putting it up for charity later on.
Yeah, I wanted you to mention that, but I'll quickly just say that Sonora Nora Moore, Jimmy's grandmother,
That's
was born in 1883. She was a vaudeville dancer.
Yes.
In Georgia to Fannie Moore, originally from Ohio, and Robert Moore Sr., a Georgia native, was half Cherokee and half African American.
Yeah.
And Robert Moore Sr. was a freed slave. Wow.
Yeah.
So that would have been in the 1800s.
Yeah. Because I know from kind of understanding it from Leon, the way he understands, some of them made their way from Halifax to Vancouver, and some came up from the States.
Mm.
Somehow ended up in this place called Vancouver.
Wow. So tell us about your guitar that you're going to be having for charities.
Which guitar? I've got Michael's Gibson Victory guitars. I knew Michael back in the day. Then I've got Jimi Hendrix's Rose guitar. And then I've got the Bob Marley guitar.
So you're doing Bob's first, right?
Yes, yeah. I have the only Bob Marley guitar in the public domain in the planet out of 8 billion people. It's actually given to me here in the Pacific Coliseum, and I'm putting it up for charity at a thing called bobsguitar.com. It's www.bobsguitar.org. And basically how that works is this. The guitars, I've been offered 10 million US for it. I don't need the money. I'm putting it up for charity. So somebody's going to end up with a guitar for $10 at the end of the day once we do a worldwide press release. And how it works is this: is people, once we do our press release, will come online, submit a letter of 750 words or less why they or their charity should get the guitar. You pay a $10 processing fee if you submit. A lot of people believe in more than just one charity. So if you got 2 or 3 charities, if you submit 2 letters, it's $15, $20 for 3 letters. And then it will go through an analytics program. And there's going to be a selection committee that picks out who, it takes it out of my realm and makes it completely transparent. And from who the selection committee is, somebody will end up with Bob Marley's guitar in the world. And all the money's going to charities and societies. I'm doing it for, apparently I have to do it for $1 a year.
Oh, jeez.
I was going to hold out for an American dollar because I think it's $1.35 right now, but a Canadian dollar will find it'll price, right? So the idea was to do the Bob Marley guitar the first year, and then the second year would be like www.jimmysguitar.org, and then the third year would be www.michaelsguitar.org.
And Michael's being.
Sorry.
And Michael being.
Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson.
In case who the heck is he? Another mess of an estate.
Yeah, he's something that comes out of Vancouver again here. Well, actually, his estate's pretty clean. He owed a lot of money, but then again, you got a money generator. There's a chap I got to know in Vancouver here called Long John Baldry. That was a really good friend of mine because another friend of mine before I met him was a guy named Gary Taylor, and he ran Gary Taylor's nightclub in Vancouver, and Gary ended up being his manager. So now, if anybody doesn't know who Long John Baldry is, he kind of introduced blues really heavy in Europe and in England. And the people that he influenced at the blues level that he was doing at the time was Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Keith Richards. It goes on and on, a long list, right?
Yeah.
But he had some interesting people in his band, Long John Baldry. And the bands that opened for his shows back in the day in Europe were the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. They opened for this guy.
Wow.
was the main guy. So, but he had two interesting people come out of that band. One guy being a really good up and coming singer named Rod, and Rod became Rod Stewart, and then got his career after that. And that was from I think they were called the Steamrollers or something at that time, if I remember. And then another guy, well, he had a saxophone player in his band named Reg, and then he had a keyboard. That was a keyboard player that was in the band, and he was a really, really, really good keyboard player, not really good at putting lyrics together. And actually, sorry, the saxophone player's name was Elton, not Reg. The keyboard player was Reg, and that Reg ended up taking the Elton part of the saxophone player's name for his own career, and he took Long John Baldry's name, John, and put it together. You got Elton John.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
And that started from him, yeah, from Long John Baldry. So Long John Baldry told me about this interesting club that was in the States called Studio 54. Now, because I'm a musician, going to a club, that's like me going to an office. I want to go to the office, do what I need to do, and leave. I don't really want to go to the office on the weekends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, but he kept on impressing me about this place. That's an incredible place. He says it'll blow your mind. And I go, well, I don't need to go there. It's another nightclub. But he goes, not like this place, right? So ended up going down there, and the second day that I was there, I met Michael. And him and I were the same age, same kind of sleeping habits. I only sleep 3 hours a night. Michael was the same way. So I got to know him over a period of time, and but he's like the reason I got the guitar from him is like he's a keyboard player.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Like he learned his music's on the keyboard, and like he says, well, I'm an entertainer, I'm a dancer and a keyboard player. I'm not a guitar player. And I go, yeah, but you do something else too. You do what was it? Of course I'm playing here, right? But I was doing that at the time, and said, oh yeah, that you sing too, don't you? That's right too, you sing. So, but I ended up getting a guitar. He says, you'll do with it more than I will, because he was aware I was playing left-handed and right-handed. He knew I had the Bob Marley guitar. And here's an interesting thing. Do you know that the Jacksons, this very, very somewhat pious family pertaining to religion and being very clean living and stuff, everything, actually did a concert with Bob Marley and the Wailers back in Jamaica. So you get this really nice clean-cut family that doesn't drink, doesn't smoke cigarettes, doesn't swear probably, doing shows with a hardcore Rastafarian cannabis smoking band. It's a very interesting mixture.
What a combination.
Yeah, so I mean, Michael knew Bob Marley. I didn't know this until I started talking to him. So but I ended up having that guitar given to me in the States, and he signed it, and I go, like, like he was going to ruin the guitar by signing something on it. I go, no, and but by the time I said no, he'd already put his signature on it.
Oh, nice.
Which, looking back, is kind of nice, but it's a guitar from a friend. I'm not there to get a signature. I've never been a groupie. I've never asked for a backstage pass from anybody. Never asked for an autograph, a guitar pick. If you're a cool dude, we get along together, fine. And that's kind of what it is, right? So,
well, it's getting to know more and more people. I hear did you know Michael Jackson then when he was with Lisa Marie Presley, or was this like after?
Well, yeah, like I talked to him over the years and stuff like this, but during that tour, when I first met him, that was the Victory tour, and the guitar I've got is a Gibson Victory guitar, but I don't know because I haven't been able to talk to a guy named Chuck Burge. He has since passed away, but Chuck Burge is the individual that designed this guitar, and it was a Victory model, and he's the one that gave Michael that guitar.
I see.
So that's kind of how the way I understand it. But Michael's not a guitar player. Never. That's the only guitar he ever owned. I mean, he never owned anything else, as far as I know. So
he must have had a lot of keyboards, though.
Well, yeah, I think what it is there's always musical instruments around, and he had access to it. So I guess he didn't really need to own anything directly himself. I'm surmising here. I've never asked, right? So
yeah, I had heard his dad was really hard on them.
Yeah, you give up a childhood, and listen, the Michael I knew, he was a big kid. We were the same age, like 27 or whatever like that at that time, and it's like, yeah, we were just. I identify I'm a big kid myself, right? But I had a childhood. Seems like I've never grown out of it. But anyways, in his particular case, I mean, it was touring and doing everything and sacrificing and everything like that. And from the career point of view, it's I mean, to give up your childhood and maybe have an incredible career, make a lot of money, it's a interesting toss off, right? So
It is.
I never asked him the question, if you had to do it over again, would you do it differently? I never asked those kind of questions because of whatever it was. But yeah, miss him. Nice guy.
Yeah, he sounded very nice too, and very quiet spoken, I thought.
Yeah. But like he says, I'm not a guitar player. I'm a keyboard player. You'll do more with this guitar than I will. So, but the way I'm doing this project over a 3-year period, I'm just kind of basically being an extension of what they might have done if they were still alive. Because you got to remember, Michael gave a lot back to his community. Jimmy gave a lot back to the community, more than people would even know or that would be aware about. And of course, we know about Bob Marley giving back to his community, really big, pertaining to food and helping people and giving out money in Jamaica, and actually uniting Jamaica with the two opposition leaders at the time. So I'm just trying to be an extension to give back the way that if they were around, they could have given back. But look at it this way, like a lot of people say, it's an amazing thing that you're doing. Well, first of all, I'm not the hero. I just came up with a good idea to be able to help. The hero, the guy that gave me the guitar, Michael Jackson, Bob Marley. Now, never met Jimmy, unfortunately, but be an extension of what they're kind of doing and give back to society. It's the only thing to do. I mean, I could sell it. I don't need the money. But the thing is I think that's disrespectful if you take a friend's guitar and sell it for capital gains where it can help somebody and help feed people. I got a lot of guitars, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I will miss them in a way, but you know what? If you're going to help a lot of people,
yeah,
it makes more sense. Nobody cares about a guitar from me.
Yeah, or me.
Although I think my son's looking at my guitar, so he's the only one that's interested. So that's falling short from the tree. But when you get 3 iconic type instruments that are in this particular type area, it makes more sense to give back to society and help people. And I'm going to help a lot of people I'll never meet. I think that's
absolutely, and that is cool. Yeah. And that's what they would have done, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, with the advent of the internet and certain people that are my support group in and around me, and the mentality and the ingenious brains of a guy named Tim Berners-Lee to make something like this happen, which is he's the inventor of the internet. He's the one that wrote all the protocols with one or two other people. But I did have a thing way back in the past called Different Journeys, One Destination, but I was told that my concept was too forward thinking. I had to wait for the internet to catch up.
Well, that makes sense. There was a lot of...
Yeah, and it's really caught up, which is good, right? So
yeah, it has.
So I'm able to help a lot better this way. But people just have to keep an eye out for www.bobsguitar.org. Look for, you'll see it in the newspaper or online, or maybe even a podcast like this,
or on the radio or something, maybe.
Oh yeah, exactly. But
I
mean, feel free to get in touch with me if you want to talk about this in the future, right? So
yeah, just put a comment down below, and everybody like, share, and subscribe to the show, so that you don't miss out, because we're going to have Sir Johan come back, I think, aren't we? We should do another show or two.
Yeah. Again, Leon's stuck in a recording studio, whether he likes it or not, right? So, it'd be nice to maybe do a show with Leon or with Billy and Leon at the same time. We could turn it into a 1.5, 2 hour show.
Yeah, maybe we could actually just go down to the recording studio and pull him out for a half hour or something. Plop him down.
But when he's in a recording studio, he's in a recording studio. You can't drag him out with a wrecking ball. He likes a recording studio,
Well, it is an escape.
Oh, yeah. And, you got to realize, when Leon is gone, he's the only direct descendant of Jimmy's that's alive. When he's gone, that's severed. Now we're into the 3rd generation then, right? So.
Right. So Tina is the 3rd generation, or?
Oh no, well, from she would be the second rate generation from Leon. So, but
Okay.
so once Leon's gone, and the same thing with Billy Cox. I mean, it's how can I say? It would be the 11th hour to put everything together like this. That would make sense on something like this, right? So.
Well, we'll give it a shot. Hey,
Yeah,
what the heck?
I can make that happen. I just happen to have that phone number.
That's a good one to have.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sir Johan. I met you by chance, and I had never forgotten I think it was possibly the universe or God or whatever you want to say that put us together, and I'm so thankful for that opportunity.
It could actually be that marble chess table that put us together.
Perhaps.
That's set up in the living room, by the way. But yeah, kids play on it every day, right? So.
Oh, good. Well, that's using their brain.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Well, you don't know. You don't know whose door you're knocking on. You don't know who's knocking on the door, and this is.
Have you ever been to a door that you knocked on and thought, I don't want that item very much anymore. I don't want to go in.
I felt comfortable with you, so.
It was good. It was cool. Yes, absolutely. So thank you for coming out and spending your time. And sorry we didn't get Leon on here, but we will next time. Or we'll try anyways. That's all we can do with a musician.
Yeah, and thank you for spending time with me. I appreciate it.
No, it was awesome. Thank you for your insights and your little secret tips that you had there. A few of them anyway.
There's a problem being an insider's insider, because a lot of the insiders wouldn't know even what I know, but it kind of goes with the way I've been since I was 16 years old. So
yeah, no,
right. So
we appreciate that. We do.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody for coming on our show. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below, and I can pass it on to Sir Johan if you have any comments or questions, and maybe comment who you would like to see or discussed next. Would you like to put this together, like Sir Johan said, that we could get a bunch of people together and talk more about other musicians as well and insights that they have? So I'm excited to kind of go down that road as well. So thank you, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week, I'm sure. And thank you. Stay safe. Be kind. Till next time.
Bye everybody. Love you.
Bye.